Hey there. Last month I got back from a whirlwind trip through New York City and I decided to make that your problem. I love New York. I've been a few times. In fact, the very first time I went was senior year of high school, spring break. I was in the drama club. Don't act surprised. We all spent, I think, like $1,000 to stay at a Holiday Inn Express and see every show possible. Money well spent. I did not realize how bad inflation was because $1,000 gets you nothing on Broadway. You'll get like mezzanine seats to a 2 p.m. showing of Book of Mormon in like half a night in the worst hostel you've ever seen. Suffice to say, I'm broke, and I was only there for 3 shows in a weekend. Please subscribe. Okay, so part of that is my fault. I don't think there's a worse time to go to New York than the holidays, but in fairness, neither myself nor my friend could squeeze in this trip at any other time. And what was the last show we saw? Why, the Great Gatsby musical on Broadway, of course. And as we were leaving the theater at 11:40 p.m. on a Saturday, we could not stop talking about it. Not in like a positive way, more in like a befuddled way. And since I don't know what your spring break plans are, or if you've even started working on that yet, I figured I'd do you a little favor and tell you about the new show that is allegedly based on a great American novel. I'm going to break this down into 7 sections. Hopefully by the end of it, you too can feel like you were there, squished in the second to last row, witnessing the utter mess that came to life. Part 1, the set. The Great Gatsby is housed inside the Broadway Theater, one of the largest theaters on Broadway, with a seating capacity of about 1,765 depending on which website you read. The night we saw the show, which was again a Saturday in December, it was completely sold out. The theater itself is beautiful. It's got ornate marbling and these giant crystal chandeliers hung everywhere. You definitely get the vibe that this place costs money, and there's no way in hell you can afford a cocktail that's being sold at either one of the bars where the line is like snaking outside the door. In a way, it's fitting for a musical that is allegedly based on a novel focusing on the difference between new and old money, class divides, and wealth inequality. The only thing missing is an amazing set. The set is baffling. For reasons I cannot understand, the very edge of the stage, I'll throw like a picture or something on the screen, has a permanently affixed pool/pool-like structure. And spoilers, but the pool will only be relevant for about 2 minutes towards the very end. I think they were trying to make a statement about how wealthy people will buy the most ostentatious thing and then like never use it, but it just took me out every time I noticed it. That said, the rest of the set is gorgeous. There are so many beautiful backdrops and moving set pieces. I loved looking at them and the way they shape the scenes. I'm so over this trend of minimalism in set design. It always looks like the production budget just ran out at the last minute and now they have to justify it by saying it's going to be artistic. Not here. Gatsby demands decadence, and decadence we shall get. I just realized I started filming while my dishwasher and dryer are running simultaneously. Okay, part 2, the costumes. Despite my time as a theater kid, my understanding of how musicals and musical productions work is pretty limited. Most of my critique is coming from the perspective of an audience member, and an audience member that was seated way the hell up there at that. So some parts of this I can only be so detailed, and my lack of expertise will really show through. That said, the costumes look cheap, especially the background actors and dancers. Like, everything was very, very glitzy and shiny, but it was cheap shiny. Like the kind of shiny you get from a off-brand princess costume at Spirit Halloween, which is crazy for a production of this size and scope. I mean, did the funding all go to the sets and then they panicked and searched flapper outfit 1920s and just bulk ordered the first result they found on Amazon? Because it sure seems like that. Like, it just seems so fragile. I kept waiting for like one of the bead strings of the flapper outfit to like shoot off and like being an audience member in the orchestra. It didn't happen, but maybe I was at the wrong showing. Part 3, the source material. Did you guys know that The Great Gatsby is public domain? I found that out when I decided to reread it for this video. Link below. I first read The Great Gatsby as a junior in high school, and I really loved it. I know it's not for everyone, but I love novels that are really social commentary with heavy symbolism. It's probably also why I really love The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, if you're curious about the kind of books that gave me joy in English class. Now, I'm no English teacher. I'm just someone who might know how to read. My interpretation of the book may be off. That's due to several influences, like, you know, the first time I read it, and the environment, the world at large, etc. So, you know, just keep that in mind. I'm stupid. There is a plot to The Great Gatsby, but it's not really about that, you know? Like, Huck Finn isn't about Huck's exciting escapades. It's a stand-in for something deeper. So, okay, the narrator is Nick Carraway. He's from the Midwest. He just got back from World War I, although in this book they call it the Great War because they optimistically thought that would end there. He moves to Long Island to become a broker, and he has no money, so he has to rent a cottage. The cottage is in West Egg, the side of the island where the new money freaks live. On East Egg, the other side, is where the old money freaks live. Specifically, Nick's second cousin Daisy and her new husband Tom Buchanan. Nick has dinner with them one night, and alongside another guest, Daisy's friend Jordan Baker, who's a pro golfer. And Jordan kind of has to gently point out to Nick that things aren't great with them. Like, Tom is cheating on Daisy, he beats her, and Daisy is just sort of like there. The only thing that does get her attention, though, albeit briefly, is when Nick mentions his neighbor, one J. Gatsby. Gatsby throws these lavish parties. They're so insane even the Buchanans can hear it. And then through a series of introductions, Nick meets this mysterious Gatsby and learns kind of a whole lot of nothing about him, and then becomes part of a plot in which Gatsby wants to meet Daisy to rekindle their romance from way back when. Gatsby was poor, so Daisy couldn't marry him, but now he's rich, somehow, so it'll all work out, right? And so Daisy is having an affair, Tom is having an affair, nobody is faithful, and everybody sucks. And Tom's mistress is Myrtle, and she's trash. Her husband, George Wilson, has a car shop, and he's bad at everything, and they're poor and not happy together, clearly. Anyways, it all blows up at the Plaza Hotel. Gatsby is like, Tom, Daisy never loved you and is leaving you for me. And Tom's like, no, she's not, because I know you built your empire on bootlegging, and Daisy would never stoop so low. And Daisy's like, I want to leave. Gatsby, you're going to drive me back in your yellow car. And then, car accident. A yellow car is seen speeding, and it hits Myrtle just outside the car shop, killing her instantly. Daisy was driving, but George Wilson does't know that. All he knows is what Tom tells him. Some jackass named Gatsby in a yellow car hit and killed his wife. So George, in an act of finality, grabs a gun, finds Gatsby, and shoots him dead in his pool before turning the weapon on himself. And then the book ends with Nick trying to get Gatsby's supposed friends to attend his funeral, but none of them will. Not his business partners, not his party attendees, and certainly not Daisy. She's off with Tom, and they're not coming back. And that's it. Now, I just told you the plot, but the plot is merely a vehicle. F. Scott Fitzgerald is using the plot to, I think, comment on pressing social issues that we see reflected throughout the book. First, there's the class divide, the difference between money and wealth. Both West Egg and East Egg are full of fabulously wealthy people, and yet they're clearly divided. If you are old money, you would not be caught dead with a West Egg dweller. Daisy certainly won't. Gatsby spent years of his life building up the money to, in theory, be good enough for Daisy, but it wasn't enough, and it will never be enough. He could have Jeff Bezos' money, but that doesn't mean anything because he was born poor, and in the eyes of the old money crowd, he will always be poor. He will never be one of them. And that ties back to the American dream too, doesn't it? That anyone, if they just work hard enough, can make it in this country, but you can't. Gatsby couldn't, and look what his money could fund. Lavish parties, an impressive mansion, perfectly tailored wardrobe, but it doesn't matter because he'll never make it. And given the way the Buchanans live, would you even want to? Their lives are so empty, they have to destroy others to make it meaningful. They're not happy. No amount of money will make them happy. And they're both too shallow to ever figure out how to live an authentic life. The ultra-rich are just vessels devoid of deep thought or care for other people. Total fiction, I know. Anyways, I think that social commentary is why the novel has endured as long as it has. It's timeless. The rich lead these insular lives devoid of joy or meaning, while trying to convince the rest of us that we too could join their ranks, while laughing at us behind our backs when we try. I really hate how relevant that is, especially now. So The Great Gatsby has been adapted several times, first for the stage as a play, and then most recently, Leonardo DiCaprio gave us an utterly tragic Gatsby in a 2013 film. So, given the timeless source material and a wealth of adaptations to look to, how bad could this musical possibly be? Part 4, very bad. If I could sum up everything about this production in one sentence, I would call it Show, Don't Tell the Musical. It's like how a lot of critics have coined this term second screen slop, where streaming services like Netflix create content that holds your hand and overly explains everything because they assume you'll be on your phone while the show is playing. The Great Gatsby musical felt unconfident in its ability to deliver its intended message. I think I can best get my point across by going through the songs. They're very unremarkable, and I had to go to Lyric Genius to remember any of them, and that's despite how they beat you over the head with the repetitive, simple message. So let's start with the opening number, Roaring On. Where's the party and can you take me there? And when the party's over, can you find another party somewhere? We live for today, we pay off the cops. And when you think the party stops, the party's roaring on. The party's roaring on. Oh, we be on and on and on and on and on and on. It's so subtle. Another frustrating thing they do is try to incorporate famous lines from the book, but it's so clunky. I remember at one point, as the scenes and sets are moving, it's actively changing, the poor actress playing Jordan Baker has to frantically get out, I love big parties, they're so intimate. In small parties, there's never any privacy. And you can tell they just kind of threw that in case fans of the book know it, There's no pause to like dwell on that sentence and what that means and what that says about Jordan. We gotta keep going. There's also this somewhat notable quote in the beginning of the book where Daisy compares Nick to a rose. The rose motif, at least as far as I can tell, only comes back at the very end, but audiences might remember it, so they turned it into a song. One line into a whole song. It's not great, but do you really need me to tell you that? But don't worry, because now it's back to subtlety with a song called New Money. Can you guess what it's about? New money, young, rich, and wild, reveled, reviled. You can't stop that new money. Fill in your pockets, spend it while you got it. Heaven knows if it'll last. Watch it as it goes. New money, watch it as it goes. New money, ba-da, ba-ba-ba. This is also the part of the musical where we meet Meyer Wolfsheim. I didn't mention him in my summary of the novel. Basically, all you need to know is he is one of Gatsby's partners who helps him make money illegally. You see how easily I wrote him out of the summary without tangling up any plot elements? So the thing about Meyer Wolfsheim is that in the novel, he is Jewish. And many critics, both in the past and today, have argued that this character is an unmistakable anti-Semitic stereotype. Because he's only in like 2 scenes. One where they establish he's a shady dude who fixed the 1919 World Series, and 2 when he refuses to go to Gatsby's funeral. Supposedly, this character wasn't written with malicious intent, but that doesn't really matter, does it? Wolfsheim fulfills a cruel and hurtful stereotype, and the novel is not made worse if you write him out entirely. And in the musical, they give him his own song. Shady. Everybody is a tiny bit shady. It's fine, it's no big deal. Everybody is a tiny bit shady. The world keeps turning if you grease the wheel. Promise you can have it all. Hanging when the shadows fall. Keep your head down, son. Keep staying in line and everything's fine. This premiered in 2024. It's so easy to write this character out or rename him or literally anything else. But no, we get Great Gatsby with a side of anti-Semitism. Hooray! I should also point out that while they are very faithful to a harmful stereotype, they do make one astonishing change. Nick is straight. Like, he and Jordan Baker have an entire love ballad. It's a significant B-plot. They get engaged, kind of, and I'm like, did we read the same book? Analysis vary depending on who you ask, but scholars like to point out several scenes left open to interpretation where Nick may or may not have done the gay. Jordan is in the novel too, but it's always unclear to me if Nick loved her or the idea of her. Kinda like Gatsby, I guess. Anyways, while I was watching Straight Nick sing about his love for Jordan, I was having an out-of-body experience. Because while I was there, it was fundraising time for Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS, an organization created to combat, among other things, homophobia. I really don't want to go song by song, but there's one other piece I need to talk about. So in addition to making Nick straight, they also make him kind of stupid. So in Act 1, when Tom and Nick are in the car, Nick's like, we're going to the Met. And you're like, no, dumbass, Tom's gonna pick up his mistress and you're just along for the ride. And the problem is, Nick also thinks that you, the audience, are as dumb as he is. So in the previous scene, he's met up with Gatsby, who's like, I'm in love with Daisy, can you set up tea so we can meet again? And Nick's like, whoa, 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 of course not. She's in a loveless marriage. That is very sacred. And this all happened like 5 minutes ago, and we were there. And now he's watching Tom cheat with Myrtle, a married woman, whose husband, George Wilson, has no idea. And these are the goddamn lyrics. If I wondered whether Tom's an asshole, Tom's an asshole. He removed all doubt. And Gatsby's proposition is the only thing my spinning mind can think about. It's so wordy. It's really clunky. It doesn't fit, but let's keep going. I just sink in a sofa as the night grows more dim. God, what a coward, should have torn the bastard limb from limb. But maybe there's another way that I can still get back at him. Yes, please connect me with Jay Gatsby. Like I said, show, don't tell, the musical. I was watching this just like so befuddled, like, yeah, Nick, I know. I was there. I saw it. I'm seeing it right now. You don't have to tell me. But he did, and he does, and he continues to do so. That's the thing about this musical not feeling confident with the message it's trying to send. It really beats you over the head with it. It's obnoxious. So, okay, we're nearing the end of Act 1, and Nick and Jordan are together because Nick is straight. Daisy and Gatsby have reunited and are carrying on an affair, and Tom has no idea because he's wrapped up in his own affair with Myrtle, and everyone is happy except for Myrtle's husband, George Wilson, but that man has never been happy ever, so who cares? And the song crescendos into a big old forgettable flourish, and then intermission. And my friend turns to me and says, "What exactly are the stakes here?" And I thought about it and finally said, there are none. Because think about it, everyone is pretty pleased with their arrangements. Nothing is really trying to rock the boat, and even if it was, most of these people suck, so why would we care? And that's the problem when you're allegedly adapting The Great Gatsby for the stage. If you just go by the plot, nobody cares because hardly anything is happening. Just a beautiful, chaotic set with some profound lines that seem wildly out of place. Part 5, the second act. A lot of first draft musicals struggle with their second act. It's tough to maintain the momentum, move the plot along, and end everything in a satisfying way. That's all stuff you'd seriously hope, since you paid $95 for these tickets, would be fixed before premiering on Broadway. I don't think I need to tell you how The Great Gatsby musical fares, now do I? Okay, look, I already told you the plot of the novel. You know what happens. Tensions build, Gatsby's wealth just isn't enough for Daisy, Myrtle dies, and George Wilson seeks revenge. That should at least be interesting, and yet it drags. Part of it is you don't really know the characters. They just kind of get on stage, tell you what they're about, maybe say something sad, and then they do a comedy beat. Another part of it is the tone switch. The first act reads a bit like a romantic comedy. I know that sounds insane, and imagine how much more insane it is to suddenly have 3 back-to-back murders in the second act. They feel like 2 completely different writers took on one part of the show and then just smushed them together. Like, tonally, it's all off, and the buildup you might get from a better written musical is lost and feels unearned. Also, they do a reprise of Roaring On and New Money, even though the sheet music for both of those songs should be thrown into the fire. Part 6. So what? Tom cheats on Daisy. So what? Myrtle cheats on George Wilson. So what? Gatsby loves Daisy and wants to marry her. So what? Without any social commentary from the original text, these plot points become totally meaningless. Why should we care about these people? Why should they mean anything to us? What message are you trying to send? It doesn't matter, because we can't be bothered to care. It's a no-stakes rom-com turned tragedy with one-note, shallow, horrible people and the most forgettable songs you've ever heard. At least the performers are talented. Part 7. Wait. Part 7. Or is it? My flight back home was seriously delayed, giving me a lot of time to reflect on what I had seen. And I realized something. Maybe the Great Gatsby musical has been a meta-commentary this whole time. Think about it. Glitzy outfits that sparkle but look cheap, songs with shallow, repetitive messages, one-dimensional characters who are defined by their wealth, rampant heterosexuality. All this time I was criticizing the musical for not understanding the text it was allegedly based on, and yet maybe it understood more than I had originally thought. The American dream, when stripped to its bare bones, is just an illusion. Wealth is merely a facade to make you seem interesting, when in reality, you're merely superficial. There's nothing to analyze, nothing important to say, only a party that goes on and on and on and on. So in that regard, it's probably the best musical ever created.